Royal Marines Plymouth, like you've never seen them before.
QNH is 100.
Help, I'll put my braces on. My trousers falling down in parade.
This week on Spotlight, we'll be meeting the men and women of the band and getting a glimpse behind the scenes. That's every night this week at 6:30 on BBC One.
All this week we'll be focusing on that much-loved institution, the Band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines. Every day we'll be looking at different aspects of the Plymouth Band's work.
We've been at the public performances and the rehearsals to bring you the music and the stories from behind the scenes. The series by Sally Mountjoy starts with a look at the history of Royal Marine bands in Plymouth.
Father Centre, quick! March!
We're great morale boosters. The public love to see us, the white helmets, etc., etc. It's the great British traditional thing. There's not a lot of it left now, and we're part of that.
They're there at every major naval function, royal occasion and state ceremony. Those unmistakable white helmets, those stirring marches. Plymouth Navy Days wouldn't be the same without them. But Royal Marines bands have been a part of life in the city for more than 200 years. It was in 1767. George III was on the throne. Nelson was still just a boy. That 8 musicians were engaged to form the first band of the Royal Marines Plymouth Division. In 1783, the band established its base here in the newly erected Stonehouse Barracks, which was to be its home for the next 2 centuries.
In those days, of course, musicians and bands were raised and paid for by the officers of the regiment, or in this case the division. So they were effectively civilians in uniform. They had no military role to perform, simply to provide music for the raising of morale, the entertainment of the troops, and indeed the entertainment of the officers in the mess during the evenings at functions.
During the Great War, the Plymouth Divisional Band headed for the front line, not to fight, but to stage morale-raising concerts for the troops, as they would in the Second World War. It was only later that the bandsmen assumed their wartime role as stretcher bearers.
QNH is 1004.
Colonel Bogey, a tune famous for more than 80 years wherever British servicemen have marched. In this case, trainee sailors at HMS Raleigh at Tor Point. The composer was Kenneth Alford, also known as Major Frederick Ricketts, director of music for the Plymouth Divisional Band from 1930 to 44.
He is actually the British March King, and we still play in his marches more than any other musician, and it was a great honour to take over the band that he himself was the director of. In the 40s, I mean, they did many broadcasts, and I've still got some actual 78 recordings of Ricketts and his band, and they are fantastic.
The band has always marked the most historic occasions, national and local. In 1949, HMS Amethyst returned to Plymouth to a tumultuous welcome after her exploits on the Yangtze River, relieving the British Embassy in Nanking.
The entire ship's company were escorted ashore, where, led by the band of the Royal Marines Plymouth Division, they marched through the cheering crowds to the city flagstaff for a civic welcome.
Three years later, the band was on the streets of London, helping stir the hearts of the nation to pride and patriotism at the coronation.
And behind the bands of the 7th Queen's Own Hussars, the Lifeguards, the Marines, and the 7th...
At one time, the divisional band at Stonehouse Barracks was just one of many shore-based and sea-going bands whose home port was Plymouth. 60 years ago, there were 84 Royal Marines bands nationwide, most of them on board ships. Fred Harwood, a former bandmaster at HMS Raleigh, where the current band is now based, remembers life as a band boy at sea.
Monday night we played for the wardroom. Tuesday night we played for the gun room. Wednesday night we played for the ship's company. Thursday night we played for the wardroom guest night. Saturday was for captain, so we didn't have many nights off, so we really earned our money.
Today, the city's only marine band, the Band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines Plymouth, is one of just 5 remaining in the country, with 75 musicians, including 7 women. Its principal job has changed very little in more than 2 centuries.
Well, our particular role is to make music for the Royal Navy and the Royal Marines, both ceremonial and in social activities. In fact, we do music really all over the country and indeed all over the world.
As far as I'm concerned here at HMS Raleigh, the most important function of the band is to provide the music for my passing out parades on a Friday afternoon. And it's perhaps one of the most important days in the life of the young men and women who are passing out from here. And without that band, the parade is not the same as it would be otherwise. Morale is lifted by a band. I've seen it here at Raleigh, I've seen it at sea, I've seen it overseas, I've seen it everywhere. And without the Royal Marines Band, the Navy would be a far lesser place than it is today.
We're taking a special look at the music and the musicians of the Band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines in Plymouth.
We've been allowed behind the scenes to see how much rehearsal goes into those polished public performances. As Sally Mountjoy has been finding out, there can be as many as 500 engagements every year.
Tonight we've got the senior NCOs in the band who are having a dinner with their wives in the mess here, and beforehand we put on a drum display and mess beatings just to set the evening off on the right note.
Things like tonight, when we're doing it in front of our own, there's a lot more pressure on you because you're going to see them the next day in work, and if you make a mistake they're going to pick you up for it.
Stick straight, open on the 6th beat.
The corps of drums is central to the band's ceremonial role. The drummers are at the front, supplying the essential rhythm. But these stunningly synchronised displays are the product of nearly 3 years' training.
Good.
Over on the parade ground at HMS Raleigh, another rehearsal is underway.
Look at that. Perfect. Here we go, see? You just don't trust me, that's what it is. Here we go. Step off, right wheel, quick, march.
Even though all the musicians have nearly 3 years' training at the Royal Marine School of Music behind them, life in a marching band still has its pitfalls.
Because the manoeuvres are quite difficult, you end up not doing the music right, and so you have to try and split your brain in two and try and do both of them at the same time.
Left, right, nice and easy, take your time.
It is difficult, obviously, with marching in straight lines and having to play at the same time, because you've got to concentrate on the music to get all the dynamics and obviously all the notes right, and then also keeping straight lines frontwards and sideways and that.
Part of being the tuba player is quite difficult. The bell gets in the way a lot when you're marching. You can't see diagonally, and if they counter march or they wheel or you go into a movement and you haven't seen it, you might have to get around there a bit quicker.
Well done, band. That was a good rehearsal. Thank you very much. Good music and good drill. We'll have a break now, Drum Major.
This is. Well done, ladies and gents. Good rehearsal. Dots in. When you got it right, Brett.
Despite the constant round of rehearsals and engagements, many of the musicians have office jobs within the band too. Corporal Mark Phillips also acts as band librarian.
There you go, yeah. Thank you very much. You'll need the Welsh National Anthem as well for that one.
Then we've got Major Rutherford's farewell concert at the Plymouth Pavilion.
Band secretary Steve Saunders is running through the diary with Captain Barry Mills, who's about to become the band's new director of music.
Yes, I'd forgotten how busy the bands were, having not been with one for a couple of years.
And then, sir, they come back from USA and India, and then on the following Monday morning, straight into a coach.
Steve's job is full-time, arranging bookings, travel, accommodation and money for the musicians. A member of the band could have hundreds of engagements throughout the world every year.
The travelling is possibly the hardest part of the job, but when you're out there, you just forget it and do the job, really.
It's been known that we can travel about 7 hours, do a 2-hour gig, and then 7 hours back again.
Tell you what, it'd help if I put my braces on first, wouldn't it? Oh, my trousers falling down in parade. I think the Commodore would like that.
As well as the travel, another essential part of the job is the dressing up.
Oh, is that right? To your left.
I think it's a very smart uniform. It's great to wear, but obviously in hot weather it's very hot and cold. You still feel the cold, but yeah, it's great to wear.
What are we doing for the weekend then, Nick? Going anywhere?
I think that actually originated in Africa when the slaves used to work in the bands, and the tradition has just carried on wearing the tiger skins. These days we get them from zoos, that the animals die of natural causes, so there's no punishment or anything involved these days.
The preparation needs to be painstaking, the rehearsals rigorous. Because in public, the band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines is expected to be immaculate.
And then Royal Britannia.
The man responsible for the performance on the day is Drum Major Steve Muddiman.
Report. Come back. I'll bring you back to the ready.
There are certain aspects where you have to be disciplined, obviously on the parade side, but I feel personally that you get the best out of people by actually treating them as human beings and not bullying them or trying to shout them into doing something.
Okay, let's make our way round.
You worry sometimes that they're actually going to follow you when you're out there on your own. If you're leading a parade, you know, sometimes you do wonder if they're actually going to follow you, but they're good lads, they do.
In the third of our series on the band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines, we see the musicians in a very different light, performing their wartime role as stretcher bearers.
Yes, in recent years they've been involved in the Falklands War and the conflict in the Gulf. Sally Mountjoy joined them on board the casualty reception ship RFA Argus for the NATO exercise Northern Lights off Brittany.
Quick! Up!
Echo, you're cleared to land 2 spot. The QNH is 1004. Relative wind is green, 35 at 16 knots.
Where is the pain? Where does it hurt? In your shoulder? Anywhere else?
The exercise is that we are acting in support of the civil power, and this is involving amphibious landings and also particularly the medical support. So we are getting casualties and sick from ashore because they assume that the local facilities have broken down.
This is my first time actually on a ship doing my secondary role, so it's all new to me, and it hits home what you can do if there was a war.
So 4 bandsmen, move a patient, please.
Which one's going upstairs?
We've got 39 bandsmen under a warrant officer bandsman here who are responsible for the patients from the moment the helicopter lands on deck with the casualties to the moment we get them into the hospital here. They have to give a quick sort of the patients on the deck, which ones are the worst, and then bring them in.
Stretcher bearers, please.
We're learning all the time on here and how to deal with the casualties and doing our first aid role, which is like is our secondary role.
And what have some of the difficulties been?
Being on the ship and getting used to the seasickness, which does take its toll.
Right-hand side.
Even carrying people on the stretchers, especially the heavy men, when you do get them. And obviously it's very different to marching up and down.
This kind of thing is good for rehearsing for war. In 1982, we actually went to the Falklands with no rehearsal at all. I just come back from the West Indies on a ship. I got put straight onto SS Uganda. We learnt the trade on the way down there. When the Welsh Guards came on board from the Galahad, lots of burns wounds. It's pretty horrific. You don't actually think about it while you're doing it. You're that busy, you run off your feet. And when you have time to think about it later on, that's when it kind of hits you in your private moments, you know.
Other bandsmen from Plymouth were on board the liner Canberra, which carried troops to the South Atlantic.
Sailing all the way down south, and indeed all the way back, and even when everybody was ashore, the band was continuously occupied in providing music of various sorts, in addition to being an integral part of the hospital facility in Canberra.
It is a great release for the troops to have something like the band to release that sort of pent-up aggression, if you like, that stress. And it also, I believe, helps to sort of combine everybody within the ship's company.
It's something different for them to hear, to listen to, instead of doing the everyday work of dealing with the casualties, and it lightens the situation, a very severe situation, I suppose.
Even in wartime, the role of the band is very far from the full-time soldiering of the commandos. But the Plymouth bandsmen are still tough enough to do battle with their commando colleagues on the rugby field.
It's very important you do keep yourself sort of, not as fit obviously as a Royal Marine Commando, but fit enough to do your wartime role.
For the Northern Lights exercise, there's an extra challenge, as casualties are flown in darkness by pilots wearing night vision goggles.
There are 3 others, walking wounded, self-caring, and I just want one escort just to make sure that they know where they're going. 70 T3. 70 T3 to the ward.
AC Flight over, the aircraft visual is
It's pitch black. The helicopter's there, it's noisy, you've got earmuffs on, so you've got to know exactly what you're doing. Plus, watch out for the casualties. It's not as simple as it looks, it definitely isn't.
The injured are played by French and Dutch soldiers. The medical and nursing staff are from military hospital units in Plymouth and Gosport.
This guy's going to be going to Bay 3 of Resus, who are expecting you. And all you need to hand over is that he's got head, neck and chest injuries. OK, you all happy? Right, away we go. 26, lift!
As well as undergoing 16 weeks military training at the start of their band service careers, all the musicians have first aid qualifications. As defence cuts have bitten deeper, this wartime role may have helped safeguard the future of the country's 5 Royal Marine bands. How do you feel the stretcher bearers did tonight?
Tremendously, exactly as you'd expect. I mean, they're exactly where you want them, when you want them, doing it exactly at the speed you want, and then getting out of the light. I mean, we couldn't do it without them.
So 4 bandsmen, move your patient, please.
2 stretcher bearers in theatre, please.
Tonight we concentrate on the music. The band members' role is to provide music for the Royal Navy, but if you think their repertoire begins and ends with military marches, you're in for a surprise. Sally Mountjoy reports.
Fire centre, quick! March!
On Friday morning, Corporal Shuggy McLeish is rehearsing on the parade ground.
Good evening!
few hours later, Corporal McLeish and some colleagues from the band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines have a public engagement.
We don't want any nakedness at all, except from the band. That's the number is called Walk Down.
This is the music that we love doing. This is what we've got together voluntarily, 4 friends, to make music, rock music albeit, and have a few beers and have a good time.
It's a good release for the lads if they've been in uniform all afternoon, and you can, put the uniform aside for 1 minute and get down and go out and do something you enjoy doing.
Just because we're a military band doesn't mean that we shouldn't play rock music. We've got to be able to relate to the troops that we're playing to, the sailors on board the ships, the Marines. To do that, we've got to play their style of music.
Alternator tonight, strings with a melody.
All right, Tommy, don't forget to do your bell notes. 1, 2, 3, 2. Tonight we're playing at HMS Drake, Officers Mess Wardroom. It's an orchestral engagement. We've brought 10 members of the band along, and it's a families and friends evening. We do this regularly, about once a month. We tend to stick to selections, marches, waltzes, anything that's in the background, really. Musicianship can stretch to several different instruments, and these are usually our second instrument.
I do all the same engagements as the other cornet players, marching engagements, concert engagements, orchestral engagements, but I also run the jazz band. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. We play a range of jazz styles, from traditional to modern, but not too way out. We play all sorts of different engagements, from carnivals, wardroom dinners, functions, weddings, all those kind of things, really.
All the musicians play 2 or more instruments and several styles, which is why the band, in its various musical forms, has around 500 bookings a year, from a church recital to the Royal Tournament. And the same musicians who paraded before crowds of 25,000 and on network television came home to play for Plymouth Navy Days, but not just in their traditional style.
We're going to do a number now that is normally featured with marching music. That's what we're famous for, with the white helmets on, and it's the famous Stars and Stripes Forever. My job as the bandmaster is to teach all our lads and lasses to try different styles of music, which they will be asked to perform during their service career.
We play anything from an orchestra to a rock band, from a jazz band to a concert band, and then you're on the hoof again at the end of the day doing a beat retreat, sunset ceremony, say in London in front of the Queen. It does keep the job interesting.
We're able to provide any type of music. That's what we pride ourselves, and that's what actually I believe keeps us as one of the best military bands in the world.
Well, all this week's Spotlight has been featuring the band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines Plymouth, but you ain't seen nothing yet. Tonight we have a real treat for you.
Oh, yes, indeed. In the finale of Sally Mountjoy's series, we bring you the highlights of the concert to bid farewell to the band's director of music. Major Peter Rutherford is retiring after 35 years with the Royal Marines.
Fly the centre, quick! Oh!
Trombones, you happy with your bit? Just watch me when I pick it. I always give you 1, 2, bum, ba 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 bum, whatever. So the second half, Captain General, second times, please. Aranjuez, as written, and the symphonic marches of John Williams. Right, here we go from the beginning, first of all, then, and then we'll cut down to the bits we need. So, you know, Fantasia on British Sea Songs. No, that's got to be a lot louder. Could I have 2 side drums?
We follow them every concert they perform. Absolutely brilliant.
The only thing is you have to book your seats so early because it's such a fantastic show.
Good, thank you very much. And if you can do that slow bit, that would be fine there. We are the Plymouth Band, and we have a great tradition and great history of playing in Plymouth. So it's our home crowd, and we always get wonderful support.
I think it's a bit special tonight, you know, with the and it's a full house, obviously reflecting on the occasion, you know. So it's a special night.
It's good today because it's the boss's last one. I want to try and make it nice for him. We always try to do our best. It just feels a bit different because the crowd will get behind us a bit more tonight.
It's just a great thrill to have such wonderful musicians behind me. So it's just a wonderful time to be able to direct them and sort of give them something to aim for in their musical careers.
Exacting, but very fair. He wants perfection as near as he can get, and we all do our best, try to rise to it.
I just asked for some choirs, and it sort of built from that, and everyone said they would like to come and join me on my farewell concert.
Is there anything particularly demanding from your point of view, from the band's point of view, about what you're playing tonight?
Probably just the 1812. They've taken the violin and the cello parts and they've given them to clarinets, euphoniums and saxophones. And it's not quite so easy to play with the fingering as it would be on a violin or a brass instrument.
And of course, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for making my night. I've had a wonderful career in the Royal Marines, thoroughly enjoyed all 35 years of it. The best parts have always been down the West Country, particularly these last 3 years with the Plymouth Band. We've had some wonderful responses. You've been magnificent. Thank you all very much. It's tinged with sadness, but it's also a joyous occasion. The Royal Marines bands go on and people will take my place. And I should look back with very fond memories, particularly of my time in Plymouth.
Wonderful stuff. Now, we did say we'd be talking to Major Peter Rutherford, and that we are. He's in our green room here, the other side of this wall, and expecting to be called through to the studio by our floor manager. But that ain't going to happen, because we've got a bit of a surprise for him. Follow me, and all will become clear. Major Rutherford, hello there. I know you're expected to be called through the studio by our floor manager, Jeremy, but there's been a slight change of plan, and I want you to follow me. We are live on air on Spotlight.
Right.
I ought to warn you.
This is a surprise.
No, yes, indeed. I feel as though I should have a big red book with me. But it's not quite that bad. If I could bring you around here, we might have a few people that you might recognise.
Oh, my goodness. Magnificent.
But you recognise the tune?
Oh, yes, I recognise it all.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, you recognise the tune there,
I
Major
do,
Rutherford.
yes.
That is all for you, of course. And you thought you'd said goodbye to this lot, didn't you?
I did. I said goodbye to them this morning because the bands are going all their different ways. Some are going to India and some are going to Washington next week, so I won't see them all together again. So this morning I said my goodbyes. What a magnificent surprise. John, I'll have to pay the fee for all this, will I?
Now, just come round this way, because we want to have a little chat. Just if I can bring you around here, and the band make a magnificent backdrop, as well as making a magnificent sound. And we've just seen all those highlights from that wonderful concert last night. How much of a wrench was it for you when you finally put the baton down?
Well, I had a lump in my throat with some of the pieces. Obviously, the 1812 is such a wonderful, magnificent showpiece. And also we played Elgar's Nimrod Variation. And the way and the style they played that was very, very moving. And I did feel quite sad then. But I've had such a wonderful time, and they're such a great band that I think I didn't want to go away sort of with a tear and a handkerchief. I want to go away saying, yes, these are my boys, and they'll go on. I'll go elsewhere, but they'll still be there because they're the best band in the world.
And what would you say would be the highlight, I suppose, of your tenure?
Oh, over the 3 years, all the travelling I've done, it's been fantastic. We've been all over the world with the band. And I think really just the last 3 years with this particular band. After 35 years, I've been with all the Royal Marines bands, but the Plymouth band is very special and always will be something special in my heart.
And I suppose Hong Kong must have been incredible.
Oh, the final farewell of Hong Kong, it was a very wet few days there, but that's memories there, memories of going to Ethiopia and playing for thousands of Ethiopian on the same stage as the Live Aid. There's lots and lots of wonderful memories I'll have.
Well, we're going to have a little bit more music from the band in just a moment. For now, though, back to the studio and Teresa.
Thanks very much. Well, we haven't finished with the surprises, actually. We're obviously in military mode tonight, and we're staying on a military theme for the weather because David Brain is resplendent in his uniform as a member of the Royal Naval Reserve. You're full of surprises too, aren't you? What's all that about?
Well, I'm here to do a bit of advertising, actually, like Teresa, because not many people know there are reserve units for the Royal Marines Reserve and the Royal Naval Reserve. Sadly, there isn't a reserve unit for the band of the Royal Marines. I'm sure many of you out there would love to play. But we do have, later this month, a recruitment evening, and that's on the 27th of October. And what that's all about is basically you can come along. It's at HMS Vivid, and that's in Mount Wise in Devonport. Come along and find out what the Royal Naval Reserve and the Royal Marine Reserve can offer you. It's great fun, and of course you also get paid for it as well. Anyway, that's my plug over and done with. Let's get on with the weather, because this evening is going to be basically dry to start with, but we are going to see a bit more cloud coming and going. And through the night, that cloud thick enough to bring us some light outbreaks of rain and drizzle as well, and a fair amount of low cloud, especially up over those hills and moors.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, David, for being with us this week. It's been a real pleasure having you along. Come back soon, won't you? Well, if we've whetted your appetite for the band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines, don't forget you can hear that whole concert that they played last night in Plymouth on your BBC local radio station tonight at 7 o'clock in a few minutes' time.
Well, that sadly brings us to the end of a very special week, but we leave you tonight with the stars of Spotlight this week, the band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines. Bye-bye.
Good night.